Welcome back to the J&B Bodyworks podcast. Today's special guest is an incredible car photographer. He runs a website called machineswithsouls.com. Check the website out if you like car reviews, car news, and things of that nature. Today, Mike talks about some incredible stories from his past, how to be a better photographer, and how to get into the industry. And stay tuned to the end because we have an amazing giveaway that one of you lucky guys could win. So please welcome Mike D'Ambrosio. Mikey, welcome.
Mikey, thank you for having me.
I was just told not to touch this, and look, I am touching it. You are friendly with a good friend of the shop, Larry Casella from Ammo NYC. Is that how you found out about us first?
Yeah, I actually met you guys about a year ago on New Year's Day, and I met Larry at the shop here, and I figured anyone that is fastidious enough for him would be perfect for me because I am that level of fanatic when it comes to the cars and paint and all that kind of stuff, and I've never found a shop that's actually put the time and attention that it takes to do it, the way I envision it to be done. So when I walked in the shop right away, I'm like, oh, these guys get it.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you. Stop. That's awesome. So you're a detail guy, not detail, but detail oriented.
Yeah.
So you like the particulars, but you drive a BMW, which my first introduction to BMWs was BM Trouble You. My mom had a 7 Series, and that car constantly had stuff going on with it. Have you had any issues with your BMWs in the past?
Mhm. Yes and no. Yes, I had an N55 in my 335 that left me stranded many times, and I didn't do anything wrong to it. It's just the car. But at the same time, I had an E92 M3 for a long time, and I never had an issue with that car. Most of them have been fine. The G80 that I have now is bulletproof. Um, I think that the modern ones certainly are much better. Anything with a B motor, I think you're in pretty good shape.
I feel like most modern cars now are pretty solid. I always recommend people, and this is something that I'm really excited to have you here because one of the things that you do with your platform, Machines with Souls, is you review cars, which is a dream of mine. So it's awesome that you get to live, I'm sure, a lot of people's dreams. But I always recommend people, and this is something that you might have a different opinion on, is most new cars are okay, but maybe stay away from the first of the car. So like I remember like the Broncos when they first came out, we had a customer come in with one and had a water leak through one of the top seals. So I always recommend people maybe hold off until some of the second gen or the facelift or something, just because with modern cars, do you agree? Do you feel like cars are pretty reliable? Do you feel like there are cars that you should still stay away from? Or what's your feeling about reliability in modern cars?
So I can tell you 2 points. Yes, every car they make now is very good. And honestly, there are no new cars. Every BMW shares the same engine, same platform. So there's nothing, they're just different shapes, but they're all fitting into the same chassis. That said, I once bought a Kia Stinger that had paint drips in the factory and left me stranded after 2 weeks of ownership.
Really?
I ditched it right away. So I think, I mean, I hate to say Kia Hyundai is bad. I've still seen or heard bad things about them, but the cars themselves, as driving cars, are excellent.
What's the most unreliable car you've ever had?
Ah, I had a 350Z that I had modded and turboed, and that thing would, get down the quarter mile, and that would be it.
But because it was modded and
Yes,
turboed? Okay, so
no.
that's, we got to put that little caveat there. And that's no shame to whoever did your work. I'm sure they did fine work, but I completely understand. One of the things that goes hand in hand with Japanese cars is the fact that they're pretty reliable.
They always have been. I started out with 3000 GT, which that's a bad example. But overall, I mean, I grew up in the backseat of a Maxima, and my parents had that car for 20 years. So to get introduced into the German or the European world, I came in early 2010s when they were really starting to get better. But certainly I've seen horror stories. I've driven old BMWs a lot, and everyone's always saying that if you just do this or if you just do that, it'll be fine. I once drove an Alfa Romeo, the Quattrofoglio.
Yeah.
And the owner was genuinely excited that he only had to replace the motor once in 36,000 miles. He was like genuinely thrilled about that.
Just once.
Just once. So it just depends on the car.
What got you into cars? Did you have a toy car when you were a kid? Did your dad have a car? What was the thing? Do you have a memory that you can kind of trace back to what got you going with cars?
I You could blame my mom. My
Okay.
mom always liked new cars and just fancy cars, I
That
guess.
I'm sorry, that was very sexist of me
Yeah,
to
sorry.
say your dad.
No,
Could
no,
have been
it's
could have been
it
your
is.
mom, could have been
Yeah.
whatever. That's I
Um,
love moms. Not like keep going, please.
my my dad was not a car guy. My mom got me into cars, but more so, I would say, I don't know, when I was about 13, I really started to just pick up car magazines and read them. And I loved everything about the pictures. And then, of course, once you start to drive, um, it changes. I think it changes everything. You have the freedom to go wherever you want.
Oh yeah.
And the way a car makes you feel, I guess you can relate it to maybe a new pair of clothes. You feel good when you're in them.
Look
But
good, feel good.
yeah, look
Yeah.
good, feel good.
Yeah.
Just something about cars in general. The way that it's the only way. I mean, I'm afraid to fly. I do fly, but I would never be a pilot. But the thought is exciting.
Right.
So here's something that I can actually drive and control.
A lot of people have that sentiment. I like my brother, for example, hates flying, but I would never get in the passenger seat with him because he drives like a maniac. It's like, dude, or like I think there's something about the control aspect. I've driven like a maniac, and the moment you get to the passenger seat with somebody and they start driving like a maniac, it's the worst. So there's something about that control. But we have this question because I think all of us have a poster car. Maybe it wasn't an actual poster on your wall, but what did you have a poster car, or what was that car that in your head you're like, that's the car?
I had growing up, I had a Countach, black Countach, which I think every kid with that '80s, the Miami Vice writing.
Yep.
But I honestly, as cheesy as it sounds, I really did. I would go to the Mitsubishi dealer. I'd beg my parents to take me to pick up brochures for the Eclipse and the 3000 GT. I actually even cut one up when I was younger and kept it in my wallet. As when I was like in middle school, just as a reminder of. But yeah, that was, I don't know, just something about that particular car spoke to me, and I just thought it was one of the most beautiful cars. So, I mean, of
100%.
course, a F40, things like that are,
Yeah.
but back then you would never see an F40.
Especially not the way you see him now. Now with
Now you could go to a car show on a Sunday and you realistically expect to see an F40 or
oh 100%.
something like that.
And now it's getting even crazier. I went to an event. We're close with the guys at Classic Car Club in Manhattan. They had a Lamborghini event. There was two gated shifter Murcielagos. Like just hi, like two of them. One was wrapped, and the other one was beautifully painted. But you're like, the car community now? The car culture is getting crazy. But I will tell you that the older Lambos, they're not the best to drive. That whole thing you see where the manual. I don't know if it's true or not. But the manual tells you put the door up and pop your head out the
Yes.
side when you're reversing. I don't know if they actually recommend it, but I move cars in and out of the shop all day. I'll move F-250 with a plow in the front before I move one of those cars. It's brutal. They barely move. You're like this. Your feet are like this when you're driving, and there's no visibility.
Even the Aston Martin, the Vantage that I had, they had these carbon bucket seats, which were, I mean, they look beautiful. And if you're driving for 20 minutes or even an hour, you're okay. But getting in and out, and then oh my God, they're after a while
Brutal.
they're uncomfortable, and it's just the price of beauty.
Yeah.
But yeah, Countach, things like that. Like I do not want to have to plan my drive around the car. Meaning, like, where am I taking it? Is it going to scrape? Can I park the? It takes some of the fun out of it.
So that kind of is a good segue into what again we were talking about before. Tell me a little bit about your platform, Machines of Souls, and then I want to hear a little bit about what goes into your score, the Soul score. How do you score it? What makes something a 10 and what makes something a 1?
So I started Machines with Souls about 5 years ago. Originally, it was like a photography blog or platform. Everyone wanted to know how I took the shots that I take. But my end goal was always to review cars, and I just had to figure out a way to get the cars. Either ask someone to borrow them, or maybe even an OEM maker would send one, which eventually is what happened. So I think that when you talk about reviewing cars from a car and driver, raw data is important, but it's become such a heavy marketing tool. We've all been trained now 0 to 60 in 4 seconds versus 3.9 seconds. Well, we're all going to pick the one that does 3.9.
Right.
In reality, you cannot feel that 1/10 of a second.
Right.
Even if there's so many variables, well, a tenth is nothing unless you're talking about an F1 car. So it's all those kinds of things, lateral G-force, brake distance, all that kind of stuff. What does a car feel like from behind the wheel is really where I'm going with. Are you actually going to enjoy this car every day? My manual G80 is a great car, but the shifter even though it's a manual, is not really the best, and it's taken a lot of the joy out of the car itself.
Interesting.
So those are the kinds of things that I try and factor in. And also, like we were just talking about, the Aston Martin was uncomfortable. A Countach is uncomfortable. Do you want to live with that car every day? And it can be done because a car like a Corvette is comfortable getting in and out, and you can fit your things in there, and your girlfriend or your boyfriend be happy in that car. Like you can live in it every day.
So you're taking into consideration way more than just the numbers. You're looking at it and saying, I'm the consumer. I want to buy a car that I'm going to actually drive.
We can like things like understeer and oversteer are important. And if you want to track your car, of course, you should know how your car's set up. But do you experience understeer every day on the street?
Mm.
I hope not. Otherwise, you're in trouble. So it's those kinds of things like why does a car understeer? Because maybe the steering feedback isn't as great as it could be. I don't feel anything from the wheel. So maybe the brakes are squishy. Maybe they're too tight. There's a lot of things, and I've had a lot of people email me saying, "Oh, Mike, I read the review, and you're actually right once I drove the car." And so that's a good feeling.
Yeah, 100%. You could not talk somebody out of a car, but maybe help them make a more informed decision that at least that they're. I had a discussion with somebody the other day, and I was thinking about this today. You used to be able to have two cars, right? Like this is not a political show, and this is not a commentary about what's happening in the world or our economy, but I think it's harder for people to have two cars now. Most people have one car. I think there's a lot of really good cars out there that you could have one solid car that does a lot. Like people, more and more people are gravitating towards the S's, the M's, or the M lines, the S lines. So I think that idea of a car that makes sense to drive, that a normal person would actually, the things that a normal person would actually care about. Do you have a background in driving? Do you feel more equipped to talk about some of the more nitty gritty stuff?
Yeah, so I think when we talk about car, like a sports car from the 90s, let's say an original Acura NSX,
Mhm.
if you took an Acura Legend from the same time period, the performance of that sedan wasn't equal to what an NSX was.
Okay.
Nowadays, of course, look, any modern, a Blackwing, an M3, those are cars that are sometimes faster than their sports car equivalent, or at least as fast and just as enjoyable to drive. As far as like what I've experienced or in my past, I've had a ton of track days, HPDE events. I used to track the E92. Um, I work with the BMW Performance Center a lot, so I work with their instructors and I've taken their courses and things like that. So it's certainly enough driving chops to rank or feel what a car is going to do at the limit.
I'm sure you have an extensive list, and I hate to put you on the spot, but is there a car on both ends of the spectrum that stick out to you? A car that you rated very poorly, or at least a car that you rated very highly, that you're just, this is a car, a 10 or a 9?
I'll preface it by saying that today there's really no bad car.
Okay.
But for me personally, maybe because I was such a Z guy, when I got the new Nissan Z for a week, um, you get in the car and right away, like, hey, that's the same e-brake handle literally from 20 years ago.
Really?
I swear to God,
Wow.
it would shock me if it wasn't the same part number.
Wow.
The little window switches and things like that. And once you drive that car, it still sounds the same, it feels the same. 20 years ago was a great car, but so much has changed in those 20 years now that it kind of fell flat on its face. It's not very fast. It doesn't really handle that well. I don't know why you'd pick that over a Supra,
Mm.
really, if you're in the market for that kind of car. A car that I loved, there have been a couple. I love the 718 GT4. Obviously, that's a pure car. It's not the fastest car, but you can enjoy that car at the limit on a road
Yeah.
or even on a track without, if you're not uncomfortable pushing the car to the limit like a Corvette. That's the car to do it in.
Yeah. The Porsche purists are out there crying, but
I
honestly,
mean,
if you're a driving purist, you know that car is a fantastic driver's car.
a 911 is, of course, amazing, but think of all the electronics and things that they've had to add to that car over the years to correct what is inherently a design flaw.
Right.
So,
I mean, you with the GT4, you have a mid-engine car, lighter. It really is. It's like, so car that we have today at the shop that we're trying to produce a little content around is the Carrera T, which is a car you don't see a lot. Um, and it I drove it around the block, and it really did feel like a car that they were trying to push towards the people who really want to drive the car. Like you go into a Porsche dealership, you say, "Hey, I I've worked my ass off and I have enough money to buy a 911, they'll tell you, okay, give me 2 years and we'll never call you, you know? But at that time, I don't know if they're, I think they are still making the T, but the T was less expensive than other cars and has what people would pay more money for, right? Like it's stripped down. It has the, uh, I call them the keychain handle to get in and out of the car.
Yeah.
No seats in the back, better suspension. It you would pay way more money for that. So I agree with you that that car is a fantastic car, and I think I would also rate that pretty highly. It's a great car. We were also talking a little bit about the Corvette. You got recently an opportunity to.
The Corvette. So released that review today, the
Mhm.
Z06. I had driven a regular Corvette last year, and it's a great car. The Z06 takes it to another level. So I think the real difference with the Z06 is the way to explain it is if you think about what BMW did with the 3.0 CSL, which is a very special model. It's $750,000. It's only in Europe.
Mhm.
It's essentially an M4 with a lot of fancy trim. The Z06, what they've done is engineer a new V8, right? It's still a small block technically, but shares no parts with any other engine that they make. And it's naturally aspirated. It's got a DSG transmission. It's for a purist, and it's extremely fast. There's no excuse for that car. It really can keep up with anything.
Wow.
So that is a pure car that I mean, and starting at $105,000. I'm not sure why you'd have to go to a 911 when you can go to that Z06 instead.
What else is around that budget?
For that price point, I mean, there's not a GT4 is more expensive. 911, you're really at a base model.
120, right?
You know,
130.
130. I think for an M3 and M4 isn't going to give you the same level of involvement. So
Okay.
it really is a special car, and
Wow.
half the people are like, oh, it's a Corvette. But if you can kind of look past what the old Corvettes were, the mid-engine one that's out now is great. But this Z06 really they've done an excellent job.
I've actually met more people. I've actually met more Corvette people, purists. I feel like we're overusing that word, but it's true. People who are obsessed with Corvettes who tell me that they love the new Corvette. I don't know what it is about it that they're gravitated towards because it's a very different car.
Purists, I think, are a dangerous word in the automotive world.
Mhm.
Purists don't want an liquid cooled 911. They don't
Right.
want a turbocharged BMW, and they don't want a mid-engine Corvette. And there's really, there's no reason, especially if we want to keep enjoying the cars that we love so much, then they have to do some of the things to keep it up without going electric.
Yeah, I mean, there's the idea. Last thing I'll say before we move on to the next segment is I think your point is well taken, and I 100% agree. But then there's the Mustang Mach-E. So it's like there are exceptions to the rule.
Of course.
I think, but then again, I've been told that car is fantastic. So
We'll see. Maybe next year Chevy will send me an E-Ray. So
that'd be awesome.
that'd be cool.
That'd be really cool. So tell me a little bit about how you got into this this form of, I guess, would you call it social media or news, and where did you start with that?
I have a background in graphic design. I went to the School of Visual Arts in Manhattan, it's a prestigious art school. But no one got me there because I was the only person that liked cars. So you go to art school, you pick your own projects, and I always did car stuff. And of course, in a city that hates cars, I was kind of an outlier. For a long time, I worked at various ad agencies. So I got marketing and branding experience. I never took any formal photography courses.
Really?
I went on. I could always. I knew what I liked, so I just on a whim went to Costco one day and I bought a kit camera for $800 with a lens
A
and
Rebel or
yeah,
something
whatever.
like
Yeah,
that?
it
Yeah.
was a Nikon, and I just started shooting. Like I love landscapes, things like that. And once I figured out how the camera worked, I was like, well, I'm going to point it at a car and I'm going to see what I get. That was about 10 years ago, and so I've done a lot of stuff. I've shot for Jaguar, Land Rover, BMW, ammo. I do a lot of marketing shots, but at the end of the day, if you want to shoot consistently with cars, that means magazines. Magazines and websites don't pay.
Mm,
They pay $200 a shoot. So I decided I'm just going to do it myself. I built the website, I designed it, and I launched it.
wow. So your idea was nobody's gonna do this but me. Nobody's gonna give me this but me. So that's a really great message, I think, to people out there who are passionate about something. Today, there's so many different ways to get involved with the things that you're passionate about. Just go out there and try it.
Try it. there's what I do. There's no such job. No one is gonna let you write and shoot, or especially to compensate you for your time. Love what you do, but get paid for what you do by all means, and don't accept it just because it might be a dream job and they're offering you whatever, $200 for a shoot. Your time and effort, your equipment, your gear, it's all worth more than that. So do one or two of those. Of course, be excited and get your feet wet, but beyond that, just take it upon yourself to go shoot a car and become involved the way you want to be involved.
Is there did you happen to find yourself on YouTube watching tutorials, and how did you learn how to set up a website? That, to me, someone who's not technologically savvy, it seems a bit overwhelming.
For the car stuff, believe it or not, it comes from. I mean, I still have stacks and stacks of old cars and driver, road and track, whatever, in my basement, and that's you consume Top Gear shows like that. It just sort of by osmosis, you learn. Like I see how they're shooting the car, and there are reasons for getting low, the kind of lighting, a polarizer, all that kind of stuff. There's reasons that they do that. You learn that, and then it just becomes a natural thing. Like that's just the way I shoot the car now. As far as a website goes, you don't need, it doesn't have to be fancy. Go download WordPress, do a template, um, Shopify, anything like that. You definitely don't need to learn how to code, anything like that. Just, I would say, make a logo, make a strong brand for yourself, use a templated website. And as long as the content is good, and be honest, like when you do this stuff, be honest with yourself, and it'll come naturally.
Yeah, I like that. Something that we like to say a lot, that I think people might take the wrong way, but if you can kind of look past the tongue in cheek nature of it, is steal like an artist.
Yes.
So you learned from those who came before you through Car and Driver, and but then you learned and you made it your own, and now you have your own style that people are asking, how do you do that? So that's a really great lesson again for people, is to wonder, I'm not as good as that person. Well, try to figure out what that person's doing to be that good.
Good artists think, great artists steal. By all means, copy what people are doing, learn what they're doing, but then also put your own twist on it. I hope by now that if you look at one of my photos, you can probably tell who shot it.
Mm.
There's a certain way I retouch. It all goes into it together, but it's taken years to be able to refine it.
Yeah.
So go out. Well, I always tell people, just go out, grab a camera, and just start shooting, and see what you get back. You never know.
I and this is genuine. Uh, I don't know if you can still get access to your photography book. Can people still buy that?
Yes, yes, they
Okay,
can.
so we have to put that. I think we actually have it here. Can you pull that out for me, Elvis, if you don't mind? Um, I after hanging out with your book for a little bit, we brought it up to show it today. It really does. You can see your style immediately,
Thank you.
and it's just, it's awesome. How can, let's say, I'm an 18-year-old kid who has an iPhone. Can I shoot like you shoot, or is there anything that I can do to make a good photo with my iPhone?
When you have an iPhone, the problem is still the resolution. Modern ones have gotten much better.
Thank you, Elvis.
Um, but the kind of shots that are in the book, I'm going to be honest with you. There are a couple of images I still have on the website. If I ask you what I shot it with, whether like the Nikon I use now or the one that I started with, you probably wouldn't be able to guess. So go and grab a used camera from a website that costs you $300.
Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah, whatever, Facebook, please do that and just practice with that. And honestly, you can keep that camera, maybe upgrade your lens, but you can work with that camera for a long time before you might feel the need to upgrade. I only work with a big Nikon now because some of the images I shoot are going to be used for big billboards or something like that. But so that you need the resolution. But beyond that, no, please do not buy a fancy camera. You can shoot with the iPhone. It's just not going to get the quality that you might expect.
I like to. I'm no photographer myself, but I've had some fun with it. And one thing that I like to tell people is, I think the best advice for any person getting to any form of art or doing anything they're passionate about is just create. You need to go out and just do it and put it out there, because I think you definitely need to be critical of yourself. You definitely need to look at your work and try to improve on it. But I have a huge problem with overthinking everything that I do. It's something that bleeds into my life in a lot of different aspects, and it bleeds into anything that I do that I would so feverishly call art. The thing that I've learned in the past 6 months since Elvis and I, our producer, has been we've been making content. Just create, just get out there. If it's photography, shoot and just edit it, throw it out there, try again. Because over 6 months, you'll look back and say, I've made improvements. I've watched my stuff instead of taking a video and working on it for 3 weeks or a photo and working on it and working on it. Just try another one. You'll have another idea. You'll get creative. And I think your point is very well taken. Just find a cheap camera. Your parents probably have one in their basement, or go to a garage sale. I passed by a church yard sale the other day and picked up a contacts. What's that film camera? Whatever, great little film camera, and just shoot. Have fun with it. I think that's a great way to do it as well.
You're certainly not going to waste any film. There's nothing to worry about. Um, if you look through some of the pictures I've taken, you might ask like, "Wow, where did he find that spot?" or something. I mean, I don't ask permission. I ask for forgiveness instead.
So
So park the car, get out, shoot, take your 10 minutes, and if someone kicks you out, you already got your shot. I mean, as long as you're safe about it.
yeah,
But yeah, there are tons of shots. I couldn't even count. There are definitely hundreds of thousands of shots I took that didn't work. But I only need one.
yeah.
So please don't ever be afraid, and don't ever. Social media is can be such a downer sometimes.
Oh, it's brutal.
I mean, just if it only gets 5 likes, it doesn't mean it's not a good photo. And if it's going to get 1,000 likes, it doesn't mean it's a good photo. It only, what matters to you? Do you like it? Did you do your best? You'll get there though.
Yeah, I will tell you that social media is brutal. I've had people say the most ridiculous stuff
Yes. Yeah.
publicly about my hair. Apparently, I have a lisp, which I just found out about, and I honestly don't even know if it's real.
You were with you the whole what? How old are you, Mike?
27 years old.
And
I've
you
been with
never knew
me.
until
I never knew. I never knew, and so it. But you know what? After a while, you just start to realize, do what makes you happy. Just do it. Just have fun with it and do it.
Please just let go of your inhibitions and whatever everyone thinks. It honestly does not make a difference. I mean, even I get a lot of positive emails and I get a lot of negative emails, and the negative ones go right in the trash, and I don't care.
Yeah, Dan Cook has a really good bit about
Yeah.
that. People oftentimes ask me this, and it's a bad question. What's your favorite car? Impossible, right? There's a ton of analogies for why it's a bad one. Like, what's your favorite drink? What's your favorite food? It changes, or different times, different different cars for different times. So I always like to pose this question: what would be your unlimited budget dream three-car garage? So I say daily driver, the weekend car, and the car we call it the grail car that you might not even drive. You would just look at it and, for your purposes, take pictures of.
I I think you'd have to start at dailies like an M5 CS, right? Because that's probably or like a Blackwing. It's a great car. Um, a special car on the weekend. I want something that I can drive. I want something that I could take to the track and give a good run on the back road. So I mean that Z06 probably is up there, or a GT3 is such a generic
Yeah,
answer, but
it's a great car,
it's a great car.
but you can't really like. It sounds like in the Z06 you can throw the kids' soccer bags in the back and take them to a soccer tournament.
Yes, it's much more livable.
Okay,
Or in the front because it's got a front too.
it's got both.
Yeah. The special car, the car that I've always loved, I mean, I used to play it when I was little. The McLaren F1 is just, I think I like it better than the F50 or any other contemporary. Like, remember the Ford Indigo, like weird stuff.
Mhm.
The F1 was, I mean, you sat in the middle. That's a special car,
Insane.
you know.
I was just had the pleasure of going to Miller Motor Cars recently and saw the new Speedtail. It's not new at this point. I think it's a few years old, but similar concept, center seat, and I can only imagine because now stuff is crazy like that. You know, every manufacturer is making a Halo car.
Right.
The Valkyrie, you know, there's a new Bugatti now every other day with a different whatever. Can you imagine at that time when that McLaren came out?
Well, I mean,
Everybody's brains must have exploded.
and so fast, still
So
so
fast.
fast, but faster back then than anything. ever came before it. I mean, it was a revolutionary
and
car.
beautiful.
Yeah, and
I think so.
I
Maybe not beautiful is the word. Sexy, aggressive, but I mean, just dope. Like, just so sick.
silver. I mean, even the GTR, was it the long tail that they made?
Yeah,
The
there's a couple of them that are like the orange is very famous.
yes,
The silver, like you're saying, Jay Leno has a black one, I think. But there's only a few that really stick out that are yeah.
that is where, I mean, no matter what, forever and ever, whenever you take that car out, it will be an event.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think you can say that about a lot of cars, but that's definitely one of them.
Yeah, like that area of cars is in there for me. This changes for me a lot. I saw same place, Miller Motor Cars. We love them. Thank you, Miller Motor Cars, for everything you do for us. I was there and saw an EB110, a yellow one.
Okay.
It's almost like a Dakar yellow EB110. I'd never seen it before. Very cool, a little ugly, but again, you're looking at these cars and you're saying, I always think about my grandfather who was an inventor, not by trade but just passion, loved technology, died too young. What I would give to sit him in a Tesla. Not that I think Tesla's the best car on the market, but to have him look at that car, hold that steering wheel with no buttons in front of it,
Right.
and double tap that stalk and let it drive itself. I think is what a wild trip that must be for. I would pay anything to let that happen.
I think about my grandfather a lot. He loved cars. He got my mom to cars. But he was actually born in 1915, right? And he's long gone. But when I think about what he would have, I mean, can you imagine? It's only 100 years ago. We're 110 now. But if he sat in a car today, he would think it would be a spaceship.
Insane.
I think that that's a crazy amount of progress, and they change so rapidly now. I mean, the 80s and 90s, if you take those 2 decades, like the car's changed in shape, but inside it was still, I mean, but now with all the screens and everything, it's like a spaceship. It's amazing.
It's crazy. Any wild accident stories or getting pulled over stories?
Um, the craziest accident. So I would actually, this is a sad story, but it has a
Oh.
happy ending. My wife goes out for a walk every night and never think anything of it. We live in a little suburban neighborhood, and one night I get a
I'm
phone
just gonna
call.
interrupt you. Pass that water. I'm gonna fill you up.
Yeah, one night I get a phone call. She was lying in the middle of the road. A car hit her as she was crossing the street. Happened about, it was 2 years ago. Um, th- it's a long story. She's okay. She's had multiple operations, but I think the thing to take away from is the amount of distracted driving. Um, that I promise, if you go out 5 minutes down the road and you just look at everyone else, you'll see their heads are just in their phone.
Yep.
And it's as bad as drunk driving. The Performance Center at BMW, they actually do a course for teens. And one of the things that they focus on is they actually make you look down, right? Not on your phone, but you just look down, and then you have to look up, and you have to avoid a water wall before you technically crash. And of course, no one ever gets it right. So
Because
the
not possible.
right. So those are the kinds of things that as a car person, getting so much damage done by a car is a little bit heartbreaking. Um, but I just hope that at the end of the day, pay attention, please. I see so many videos posted of people watching TV while they're smoking and while they're drinking, and then there's so much going on. So just turn the screens off and just driving a car is an amazing experience. You really shouldn't need to do anything else while you're doing that.
Yep. That's crazy. I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm glad that she's okay. And yeah, I'm a motorcycle driver, so I'm consistently fearful on the road, and it's made me a better driver. Um, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that I don't occasionally look down at my phone, and I shouldn't. It's terrible, but it's the phones are
It's you can't even. I mean, you can't. They actively want you to look at every time you get a text message. It pops up on the screens. So they of course they want you to. Um, it also, it's the amount of things you go through. Like no one seems to care when you're in a wheelchair. You'd be amazed how cruel the world is, especially because you can't work, things like
yeah
that. Um, but it could have just been avoided if the guy had just kind of looked up and out as opposed to looking down.
crazy. First car, current car, forever car.
First car was that Mitsubishi, that 3000 GT. I had it 4 years, and eventually it just broke down on the highway. I used to run a 16.1 in that. It was an SL, wasn't a turbo. I ran a 16.1 in that car, so it was slow, but I loved it. Um, Favorite car?
First car, current car,
Current car.
forever car?
Current car is the G80 M3. That car is great. It's a great car all around. If there's the problem with the modern M3 is that it's become the best 3 series as opposed to an M3, meaning like the E92, the E46 had special engines and
Interesting.
um, whereas this car has become like just the most powerful, most brutal version of a 3 series, probably to its detriment, especially once the stick goes away. I think you have to mod it to make it feel really special. Um, Favorite car?
Forever car.
Forever
Car
car.
that you could see yourself driving, and it could be that car, could be your first car.
I think a forever car that would be reasonable. I had an E92 for 10 years. I was the original owner. I love that thing. It was time for it to go because I had, 10 years is a long time for a car with me. But I think that car in a sedan form probably it does everything that you need and it has that excitement factor in it. So I'd be happy with that car.
It's still a little raw too.
It is, yeah. It's you drive it back to back with an E46, you're like, oh wow, it is sort of soft, but it's also that the motor is just such a special motor. I think that
I've also felt that but I think modern cars kind of put this in my head. It does feel a little soft, but it's my dad has a modern M4, and I just don't see that as a. It's a totally different thing now. Like you said, you used to an M3 was a businessman car. You know, if you liked cars and you went to work every day or even dropped it at the train, you'd have that car, give you a little something extra, but you weren't like your brain didn't melt. You know, in that car, for me, like I was spinning the wheels in that M4 like there's nothing.
I follow something on Instagram called M3 List, and once in a while, so it's just M3s for sale, which is good content. But every once in a while, they will do a post of I swear it's like 10 slides of just crashed G80s,
Oh,
G82s. There, I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that there must be 100 that have just been wrecked because it's so much power in the car. People aren't used to it and they don't know how to handle it. So I've never seen a car like this just be thrown away so quickly.
that's how my dad got
I
it.
mean, how many you even when I was here, you guys had two in the shop.
Hmm.
Um,
That one, were you here when that one was completely smashed in the quarter? That M4.
no, but
Okay,
yeah,
that's how my dad got his car because somebody
there you go.
they smashed it. Oh, you took a picture of it. I think you have
No,
a
then
picture of
okay,
that. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
then
the one. That's the one. Do you have any recommendations and any pet peeves in the car world?
a pet peeve for me. This is so stupid, but I, of course, you get in all these different press cars or even people's cars, and you want to use your music, your navigation right away. So I'm actually a fan of Apple CarPlay.
Hmm.
So I bypass everybody's regular system. You just use once or twice to adjust the car, and then that goes away. Um, but sometimes everyone's got a different thing of how they integrate it, and it doesn't work, and you're just sitting there for 20 minutes, like just in a parked car, stabbing at the screen for no reason. And I'm just like, give it up. Just stick with Apple or Android, and we'll all be happy. That way, you can just get in the car quickly and plug your phone in and
That's
go.
it. Drive away.
A recommendation. So I would say drive your car. Please drive your car. Do not. I have so many friends who save their cars for what I don't know. You're never going to get the money back that you put into it. Maybe you'll break even. I don't know, but even if you were to make a couple grand, it's not worth it of just having the car sit there for years and years. Enjoy it, love it, wash it,
Yeah.
drive it, show it off. But you know, enjoy your time with the car because then one day you are going to look at that car and be like, yeah, I've had enough. I'm bored. And then you're going to start the cycle all over again.
You
And
want to get your smiles per mile.
right. So enjoy it and enjoy the car.
That's a really good one. I like that one. So, Mike, where can we find you? Um, Anything exciting going on in your world? Anything that you're working on that you're excited for the people to see?
Yes, machineswithsouls.com. Reviews or stories come out every Tuesday. Fridays I do mailbag. So please, Mike at machineswithsouls.com. Email me if you have a question. I might pick it for a mailbag. I always answer random cool stuff. Sundays I do a feature called Talk Me Out of It. I pick a horrible, terrible, random car on for sale somewhere. Cars and bids are everywhere, and I write about it. And you have to convince me to not buy the car.
That's awesome.
So it could be. I mean, there was a Aston Martin with hood stripes. There's all sorts of weird things out there. So yeah, do that. So
That's on the website.
that's on the website every Sunday. But beyond that, yes, in 2 weeks I'm going to be doing a video with Larry on that Aston Martin.
Hmm. And for everybody who doesn't know Larry Casilla from Ammo NYC, he is our he is the physical embodiment of the OCD that we all have with our cars. But so please continue. So you and Larry are going to be doing.
Me and Larry will do. Yeah, we did a video on the Aston together. He's cleaning it, and I'll go over some of the things on that's unique about that car. December 10th, I'm doing a car show.
Awesome.
Toys for Tots. If you want to come, it's in Central Jersey. The information's on the website, but please come donate to Toys for Tots, and you could win an ammo gift card and a copy of my book.
Wow.
So that'll be cool.
Book here. Yeah. Where can they find this?
That's on Amazon available. You can also find the link on my website. It's at the very top of the banner.
If you're a car fan, this is it's a perfect
Yes.
coffee table
Thank you.
book. It's honestly, I've looked through it several times. I have a habit of when I'm talking to customers, if they go on and on and on, sometimes I'll grab what's around me and just whip through it while I'm talking to them. And this was on my desk for a long time, so I did this a lot. You if you are somebody who wants to get into photography, car photography, I hate to say this, but look at Mike's book and Steal Like an Artist, because he's got stuff here that you can tell he put a lot of time and effort into, and it's worth picking up. It's a great Christmas gift for people. If you're a car fan, grab one of these books, give it to another car fan. Could be, if you have a big stocking, you could probably stretch it and stuff it in a stocking. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, man. Last thing is I do at the end of every year, I do the Soul Car of the Year. So I pick one car that I love the most out of all of them I've driven. If you add up all of the MSRPs of the cars that I've driven this year, it is over $3 million.
Wow.
So
That's awesome. What was the most expensive?
a Mercedes SL 63 was the most expensive.
Sick.
And that I think the Z was probably the cheapest, but that's okay.
That's great. Well, thank you, Mike. I really appreciate it. It's great.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thanks for checking in, and we'll see you next time. If you own a car, you know how much it sucks to get into a car accident. But I've got something for you, and it's free. Today, we're partnering with NextBase to give away one of their incredible dash cams, and you can win it completely free. Yes, that's right. Just head over to our Instagram at JBBodyWorks, find out all the details, how you or one of your friends could win a free dash cam. Okay, go. You're gonna go, right? You gotta go. You gotta go. You gotta go. You gotta go. You gotta go over there. Hey, dude, you gotta go over there, dude.